So the Democratic Party just is trying to, some people within the Democratic Party are trying to pass a resolution so that President Trump requires approval from Congress to start what they call a war, but military operation, we should call that, against the Islamic Republic. So first of all, it seems like the resolution might not pass because President Trump has enough support from not just some Republicans, but also some more pro-Israeli Democrats for regards to the attacking the Islamic Republic. But two, even if it passes, it's a resolution. It's not a big deal. It's not big enough to be able to, like, the president has enough wartime powers to be able to ignore this resolution, even if it does pass. So actually, yeah, does that answer your question? It's not a big deal. It's like it's more of a virtue signal than anything serious. According,
Oh,
let me just find that there was a like when Iran International posted this in Persian, immediately the first comment was this Iranian person asking Grok if this is going to stop the war. Grok was like, nope. And I'm not saying like Grok is right, but it was actually pretty. So look at this. Let me actually share my screen really quickly. If I, yeah, there we go. Right. So here, this was Iran International posting this in Persian. And yes, a New York Times reported that the Democratic leaders in the House of Representatives intended to hold a vote on a resolution that would require Trump to obtain congressional authorization before any military strike on Iran. And then this guy, Hussein, was basically asked, Grok, can it stop this war? And then Grok in Persian responded, no, it's unlikely. This resolution is the Democrats' effort to compel Trump to seek congressional authorization before attacking Iran. But sources like the New York Times and Reuters show that with bipartisan resistance, even from some pro-Israel Democrats and limited Republican support, the chances of passage are low. And even if it passes, its enforcement would be challenging because the president has broad authorities.
okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Second question. How do you take Oman's foreign minister and the Iraqis' comments following today's meeting?
Wait, what were the comments of Amma? I don't know what the comments are. I haven't seen this.
Okay, so
Let me know what the
quickly,
comments are.
I have it here. I have it in Hebrew, so I'll retranslate it to English. Wait, where was it? Arakji said that it was like a very professional conversation. He was positively surprised. There are still some gaps, but on Monday they're going to start technical conversations about how to implement. And the fact that it got up to the technical aspect shows how serious the conversations were. The Omani said we had positive advancements and like we're moving along. They both mentioned though that
Okay.
there are still gaps.
Okay. So we just had the latest rounds of negotiation between the Islamic Republic and United States regarding how to come up with an agreement so that the United States doesn't attack the Islamic Republic. Arakshi, the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic, is what he's saying here is what he always says, right? So in the last round, he came out and said right before any news, like, by the way, they usually the first to come comment about how amazing things were, right? So remember the last time he came out and said that we had an agreement, right? And people were like, oh, an agreement, you say? Wow, we didn't think an agreement is possible. And then if you read the full statement, you're like, we had an agreement over the fact that we're going to meet again, right? So zero agreement on nuclear, zero agreement on missiles, zero agreement on proxies, zero agreement on not killing the Iranian people. But he likes to, like, he has to always find a way to give it a positive spin because it's very important that he gives it a positive spin for internal consumption and also for markets, for the markets, because for the value of the
The stock market,
currency.
yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, the real, the currency, right? So it's very important. So he wanted to make sure that he uses the word agreement, so that becomes like trending that, oh, they had an agreement, but the agreement was like, yeah, we're gonna meet again, right? So sometimes he comes and says, Altan says like, oh, things were respectful, like
Yeah, that's not an achievement.
wow,
That's a
like
baseline.
what did you expect? Like, did you expect the Americans to like swear at you? Like, oh, it was very professional, we talked technical. Like, oh, really? It was technical. What an achievement. Like, what did you expect? Like, right? Like, you're okay. Like, oh, it was so good. He tries to sell the idea that he tries to sell the fact that the discussions were very technical as a win, as like something happened. But if you actually look at what really happened in this latest round, the Americans came out. It was actually embarrassing. Like, as I don't know, they're I don't know, it's like they're living in a parallel universe, because this is what actually happened. The Americans came and they said, this is a simplification of what the Americans terms were, right, and what their red lines were. They're like, so they actually even allowed the Americans allowed the Islamic Republic a way out. They said, Witkoff came and said, like, okay, maybe we could just focus on nuclear, and then we could come to an agreement, and the missiles could be something that we come to and talk about after. All right. But the Americans were saying, what the Americans want was 0% enrichment of uranium with no sunset clause, unlike the JCPOA with Obama, no sunset clause. So an agreement that basically lasts forever, right? And in return, we Americans, we won't fuck you up. That's what you get in return. What you get in return is that you won't get bombed. That's the negotiations what the Americans were having, and the Islamic Republic was pretending that they were talking about something completely different. The Islamic Republic came on the table and were like, "How about you remove the sanctions from us, and in return, we'll continue to enrich uranium, but maybe less." Like, what are you talking about? Like, that is not even the entire, like, look at, I'm reading the report. Like, as soon as it came out, it was breaking. Proposal, this is what the Islamic Republic said. Proposal was focused on lifting US sanctions, something that the United States is not even considering. They were like, oh, how about we remove sanctions? And they completely rejected dismantling nuclear facilities, which is the main red line for President Trump. So I don't know
Yeah.
how they want to sell this as a success, but they walked out. They were like, "Oh, you're asking us." They walked out. They walked out of the negotiations. They left. So yeah,
Um,
this is what's
the,
coming out from Oman and the Islamic Republic is completely the opposite of what actually happened. But yeah, go on. They're
so
deluded,
I'm just
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I'm just surprised they set another meeting for Monday. I didn't expect that to happen.
I'm not surprised by the Americans why they're continuing to meet with them. Okay, so if I was the Americans, right? I would keep talking to them until the very last moment, right? So imagine if I want to come and
I
attack
just
you, right?
imagine the last moment was this weekend. That was my
We don't. I think we should be trying to talk to them until the very last minute, until the very last second, right? Because why would I give you a heads up? If I cancel the negotiations, that's a heads up that we're about to attack you. Why would I give you a heads up? In fact, if anything, I would be attacking you in the middle of negotiations, like while I'm talking to you. I would like, okay, we're talking. By the way, you're being bombed right now. Did you know? Right, like I've got breaking
so
news. We're bombing you as we're speaking. Yeah, go on.
that's what I expected in like the 12-day war, and that is what happened. Like, oh, let's talk in
Yes.
within the next 2 weeks, and then boom. But here, because the issue is getting legitimacy, I imagine they would go with, look, we tried our best. They're not budging. The negotiations are futile. They know we're coming anyway. There isn't going to be much of an effect of a surprise effect. Like they're expecting it any minute now.
No, 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 no.
Um,
There's disagreement. They don't. They like the Islamic Republic. There's many different peoples competing against each other. There's not an agreement over this. They're like There are actually people within the Islamic Republic thinking that if the United States was going to attack, they would have done it by now, and they're scared of us. There are actually people who think like that. So there are many different people with different competing ideas. So depends on
How
who
did they
you talk about.
for 7 years if they're this stupid? But that's
Well,
a
I mean, not all of
you
them are
you
this
don't have to
stupid.
answer
There are
that. Yeah,
people.
no,
There are
you
people
don't
who
actually have to answer that one.
yeah, okay.
That isn't, for the record, that isn't the third question. Okay, and I think that's enough in the interest of time for this question. The final one I had was, how do you practically change the regime without weapons on the ground, even with air support? Like, I can't imagine
Right.
how practically that works.
Okay, so there's this time in a revolution where we call Saat Sef, which is 0 hour, right? Yeah, this is 0 hour. It's the
Yeah.
time where parts of the armed forces basically stop defending the regime and either come claim neutrality or start protecting the people, right? So what we need is the death of Khamenei and many of the leaders of the Islamic Republic and the suppressing forces and the eventual presence of millions of Iranians in the streets. And more important than all of these, defections, to get to a point where more and more of the already existing armed forces of the Islamic Republic get convinced that this is it, this game over, right? And they put down their weapons or use the same weapons to start basically pledge loyalty to the revolution and the leader of the revolution, which is Prince Reza Pahlavi. So that's what we're going for. We're going for getting to that moment, which basically is the Artesh and defections from the IRGC basically deciding that okay, there is no saving the Islamic Republic and it's game over.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Welcome.
Okay, just a reminder, Armin, to keep an eye on time. We have a 2 minutes to your regularly scheduled time. We do have a couple more questions in the chat. How much longer do you have with us?
So who's on the list? Because I want to go with people who haven't spoken yet, if there's any.
Both. We have, my understanding, Adam and Dijal.
Okay, so let's try to do 2 minutes each if possible, right?
Yeah,
So
take me out.
Adam. Okay, Dajjal.
Yeah. So what's up? I was going to say, tell everybody again, you talk about the Shah and torture and all that. Tell everybody again about the bears and the ceiling.
Right. Let me actually add that to my list. It would be funny to include that bears and ceiling fans. Okay. So during the Shah's time, there were so many rumors against how Shah tortures, and so many people would like lie against about the Shah. So two of the famous ones was that they used to say, and this is like in published and everything, right? That the Shah uses bears. Like he has bears in prison as a way to torture prisoners. By the way, there were no bears. But even more ridiculous than that was the lie that I mean I don't even need to call it a lie, is that they would tie people to ceiling fans and will turn on the ceiling fan and the people will spin around the room, right? And again, that already doesn't make any sense because ceiling fans are not that strong to be able to hold the weight of a body while they're spinning around the room. But in addition to that, they will say that there will Savak agents will be around the room, and as the person will pass by, they will be raping the person that they're interrogating. So as the guy is spinning and is passing the Savak agents, they will be raped, which is I don't know how the mechanics of that works. Like somebody, if that's like I don't know. I'm trying like I can't even imagine how that works. I've been trying to imagine that, but it makes absolutely no sense. But this is something that people claimed regarding what happens in even prisons by Savak agents. In short, yeah. So
Medical
yeah, I should add that.
disclaimer, please don't rape
Yes.
people. In addition, please don't try to have intercourse while moving, certainly not on a fan. That is very dangerous. You can very seriously injure yourself and others.
I was going to say, people are saying that the IDF have been using German shepherds to rape Palestinians. That's one of the latest propaganda pieces. That
Wait, why can't people have sex while moving?
Germany.
That's not necessarily dangerous. I mean, you shouldn't have sex while driving, but like you can have sex while moving if you're not like driving.
Well, not if you're moving that fast, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, one of you is stationary.
That goes against the
The
laws
person
of
has to be
physics.
moving with you.
That doesn't work.
Like
Okay.